Hey guys, this is going to be a video on driving test faults. So the kind of faults that you're going to pick up on your driving test. So serious fault, driver fault or minor fault, and dangerous fault. Okay, so we've got the test report sheet in front of us. It is black and white because I've not printed off in colour. My printer was playing up, but you can get these off the internet. They're called DL25. So if you're interested and you want to know what's going to happen on your driving test, these are the forms to look at. Okay, on the back of this form normally is driving test report explained, so it will tell you about all of the points that we're going to talk about today. So if you go away from this video wondering why I wasn't really too sure, you can get the back side of this, and that's the explanation side of things. Okay, nowadays what the examiner will do is they'll come out with an iPad, so they won't actually have a piece of paper and a pen. It will just be an iPad, and they'll be using some kind of app which is similar to this, but obviously not exactly the same. So similar kind of format as this, which we can get our hands on, but they've got an app. Okay, so point number one on the test report is eyesight. So obviously if you can't read a number plate from 20.5 meters, that is it, game over. You're not going to be taking your driving test, as simple as that. Okay, so they're going to give you an attempt. If you can't read the number plate at 20.5, what they'll do is they'll look around, they'll see another number plate and they'll say, could you read that number plate? If you can't read that number plate, they'll just say, oh, hang about, I'm going to go back into the test centre and I'm going to get myself a tape measure, and they will physically measure out 20.5 meters. Because first of all, when they do it, it's just a rough kind of guesstimate, rough kind of, you know, they judge it just through eye. But if you're struggling, they will then get the tape measure out. So if you're unsure about your eyesight, do get to the opticians, and you know, if you need glasses, wear your glasses, simple as that. But that could be a serious fault if you cannot read the number plate from 20.5 meters. It's as simple as that. Point two, or 1B on the highway, on the driving test report, is highway code / safety. So what this is a lot of people don't know this is for unusual vehicles. So if you were driving a tractor or HGV or something along those lines, you will find that at the end of the driving test, the examiner will ask you a question or two from the highway code. So it's a bit like the show me tell me's, but like kind of years and years ago at the end of the test, they would have done 5 questions. You don't do that now, but this 1B is for the question at the end, if there is, or if you're using an unusual vehicle. So like I said, like a tractor or something like that. Point number two on the sheet is controlled stop. So you know that as an emergency stop, we know that as a controlled stop. So common reasons for picking up serious faults here on the controlled stop would be simply enough, not braking hard enough, okay, braking and losing major control, so you know, skidding down the road wildly, then moving off. Moving off is a crucial key thing. When you move off, you must do all your checks. You must look around to make sure it's safe to go again. If you don't do those checks, if you don't look all the way around, if you don't look 360 degrees around you, you will fail your driving test. So things to consider: nice firm stop, don't skid it down the road, and then don't forget when you move off, do all your checks and make sure it's safe. Third point on here is reverse around the corner or reverse to the left. Now, we used to do that years ago, probably about 2014, I think it went out of the test. We don't do it anymore, so that one you can just forget about. Right reverse, again, we don't do the right reverse unless you're doing some kind of driving instructor test or a part 2 test, as we call it. So that, for learners, don't need to know about it. Point 5 is reverse park, and you've got an R and you've got a C on the form. If you check out the form, I'll put it in the link below, but you've got an R and a C. R meaning road and C meaning car park. Pretty simple stuff. You've got on there control and observations. So if you were to do it in the road, that is a parallel park as you know it, and if you do it in the car park, that's a bay park. Okay, so yeah, basically you're going to be marked on your observations, your accuracy, and your control. So are you controlling the car at a slow speed so you can stop if anyone comes? Are you looking around and are you seeing stuff that's happening around you? Are you aware of who's coming and going? Are you responding correctly to what you're seeing, or are you just going through the motions of looking around? That's what a lot of people do. They say, well, I've looked in my mirrors. Well, yeah, but there was something coming, so do we not need to stop for it? So those are the kind of things you're going to be looking out for. So if you were to perhaps not stop whilst you're reversing back, that could be a serious fault. If you stop a little bit late, that might be a minor fault, so bear that in mind. Point 6, we've got as a turn in the road. Now, again, we don't do the turn in the road. It got taken out of the driving test, like I said, about 10 years ago. But, you know, some instructors still do it. I do it because it's a good maneuver to do. 3-point turn, basically, that's what we're talking about. Again, that's point 6. We don't do it in the driving test. Point 7 is vehicle checks. Now, vehicle checks, basically that means if you're, when you're going out on your test and the examiner asks you to do a show me, tell me question, that would be where the vehicle checks would go. So pretty simple. If you don't know your question, if you don't know the answer to it, just don't answer it. You're better off not answering it than making a mess of it. So just say to the examiner, I don't know. So it's pretty simple stuff. Taxi maneuver, again, this is a universal form, so we don't need to worry about taxi maneuver because we're not doing a taxi test. Taxi wheelchair, again, that is to do with taxi, getting in and out with a wheelchair. And point 10 is uncouple, recouple, and that's to do with when we used to do trailer tests. We don't do that. It's called a B and an E category. We're just driving a car, which is a B category. So we don't need to worry about uncouple, recouple, so that's not a problem. Precautions, that's number 11. Now, if you're driving a manual car, which most of you people who are watching this video will be driving a manual car, let's say, for example, you don't check that the car is in neutral before starting up and it's in first gear, you turn the engine on, the car jumps forwards. You're potentially going to get a serious fault for that. You're definitely going to get a serious fault if you're at a junction and you do that and you jump forwards into the new road. Definitely going to be a serious fault for that. Potentially even a dangerous fault, and then the examiner might even abandon the test if he feels like you're dangerous. Section 12 is quite big. If you check it out, it's got quite a few in. So it's got accelerator, clutch, gears, foot brake, handbrake, steering, and there's a couple for coaches and motorbikes, so we're not going to worry about those. But that's a general, you know, are you in control of the vehicle? Are you letting the steering wheel slide? Are you using the accelerator harsh? You know, are you really slamming on the gas, or are you really slamming on the brake? So that section will be marked in regards to the vehicle control as opposed to anything else. Section 13, we've got the moving off, and we've got safely and under control. So, you know, for example, if you were to move off and you didn't do your observations and there was a lorry coming and you pulled out in front of the lorry, you're going to get a serious fault. Are you under control? Are you bunny hopping down the road? You know, if you're bunny hopping down the road, you're not in control. If this happens once, maybe you're going to get away with that. But if this happens multiple times, you know, let's say 3 or 4 times, you're going to struggle. They're going to probably make that a serious fault. Section 14 is use of mirrors. So you've got 3 little sections there. You've got signaling, change in direction, and change in speed. So it's important that you use your rear view mirrors when necessary. So when you're signaling, when you're changing direction, and when you're changing speed. It's fairly obvious. If you don't do these and something is happening behind you or around you, you're probably going to pick up a fault. Now, depending on how serious that situation is, so is someone having to slam the brakes on behind or someone having to swerve around you, depends on whether you're going to get a serious fault or a driver fault or a minor fault. So it's just bearing that in mind. Those are the categories under use of mirrors. Section 15, we've got signals. Are you using them when you're necessarily? Do you need to use them when you need to use them? Are you using them correctly? Are you using them at the correct time? So are we using them for the right reasons? So do we indicate to ground parked cars? Generally no. So that's a situation where if you're starting to indicate to go around parked cars, you're going to pick up driver faults there, or minor faults as you guys like to call them. Are you signalling correctly? So when you come into a junction, are you doing the MSPSL routine? And are you doing it at the right time? Are you doing it way too early so it's confusing people? Or are you leaving it at the very last second, just before you get to the junction, and slapping a signal on and no one knows what you're doing? So again, think about when you're timing your signals, think about when you need to use them, think about if you need to use them. So it could be useful to think about that. Any of these, depending on what's going on around you, will potentially be a serious fault. If not much is going on around you, it might be that you just get away with the odd occasion with the minor fault. Section 16 is clearance to obstructions. Now that's pretty much obvious. It does what it says on the tin. Excuse me, if you're going past parked cars or down past the pavement and there's pedestrians on the pavement and you're too close, you're simply gonna fail your driving test. The distance that we're looking for is about 1 metre from the curb or 1 metre from parked cars. If the door is open, you've got space to play with. Okay, if the road gets smaller, you can carry on down through that road, but at a much reduced speed, just because it needs to be safe. So you might pick up a serious fault if you get too close, depending on how fast you're going. So if you're going very, very slowly, you might be able to get reasonably close. If you're going a lot quicker, you might have to be a bit further away. So it depends on the situation there. Section 17 is responding to signs and signals. Now underneath this one, you've got traffic signs, road markings, traffic lights, traffic controllers, and other road users. Quite a big section. If you don't respond to stuff, if you don't respond to traffic lights in time, you're probably going to pick up a serious fault. If you're a little bit late, but you've managed to stop in time and you feel like you're in control, you're probably going to pick up just a driver fault. Road markings. This is a good one. Out there are giveaway lines and stop lines. Stop lines you have to stop at no matter what is going on at the junction. So you've got there road markings. If you were to not stop at a stop line, you would generally get a serious fault for that. It doesn't matter how the test's gone, you will pick up a serious fault for road markings or response to road markings. Responding to traffic controllers, so lollipop people, police, anyone who's waving traffic through, etc, etc. So responding to those, and other road users, so just generally responding to other people. Are you responding to what's going on in front of you and potentially behind you? It's pretty simple stuff. 18 is use of speed. Are you going too fast for the situation? Are you just going really, really slowly for the situation and just trying to put on a performance? That again, if you're impacting people, if that's affecting people, you're potentially going to be picking up a fault for use of speed. If it happens once or twice and it's not a major thing, you might pick up a minor fault. But if you're really, really, affecting people, it's going to be a serious fault on that one. Following distance. Now we all know, hopefully, if you're having driving lessons, that you need to keep a 2-second gap between you and the car in front. In dry conditions, following distance here, if you're following really close and you've just not got the 2-second gap, the examiner is going to be watching that. They're going to be looking out and thinking, we seem to be a bit closer than 2 seconds. Let's see if the pupil drops back. If the pupil doesn't drop back, you're probably going to get a serious fault, because one day you're going to be too close and you're not going to be able to stop. So bear in mind following distance from stuff in front of you. Okay. Section 20 is progress, appropriate speed, and undue hesitation. This is a good one because a lot of you guys, when you're doing your driving lessons or when you're doing your driving test, you want to put on a performance to show the examiner you're a safe driver. So what a lot of you will do a lot of the time is drive too slowly, but you've got to drive to the road in traffic conditions. It's pretty simple stuff. If you drive sensibly and you're looking at what's going on in front of you, you should drive appropriately and you shouldn't have any major undue hesitation. Okay, the odd occasion, if you're at a junction and you're a bit hesitant because you're a bit unsure there might not be a gap, that's great. You're better off being a bit hesitant than suddenly pulling out. That is my advice to my learners. Always take the safe option as opposed to the dangerous option. 21 is junctions, approach speed, observations, turning right, turning left, and cutting corners. So the main part of your driving is going to be turning left and turning right at junctions. As simple as that. This is a big section. If you approach your junctions too fast, you're going to have problems, okay? If you approach them too slow, you're going to create problems. If you're not looking when you get to the end of the road and you're just pulling out, you're going to have problems, okay? If you're turning right, when you're turning right, and you're emerging out from that junction and you're not going to the point of turn, that's going to be a problem. You're going to drive on the wrong side of the road potentially and be driving towards oncoming traffic, okay? Turning left, does that, are you turning left and cutting around and going up on the pavement, or are you swinging out wide? Have a look, make sure you're turning in on your side of the road. And the final one, which I really like, is cutting corners. So when you're approaching a junction to turn right, big road to little road, Are you going on the wrong side of the road as you turn in? Are you aligning the white line with the mirror, as we like to teach, and then you go in on your side of the road? Obviously, if you cut a corner and there's a car coming the other way, you're probably going to get a serious fault for that. So it's pretty simple stuff. Section 22 is judgment. Judgment when meeting traffic, overtaking traffic and crossing traffic. Now, we don't generally overtake much when we're driving because we're driving slower than most other people. But obviously, as you get better, you will need to overtake people. So if you're on a dual carriageway, are you making progress in overtaking people when necessary? On a country lane, are you coming across cyclists, pedestrians? Are you overtaking them if and when it's safe? Hopefully you are. When you're crossing traffic, big road to little road turning right, are you judging the oncoming traffic to see that it's safe before you do the turn, or are you just randomly cutting across and hoping for the best? So again, looking at section 22 is judgment. Nearly at the end of the form, section 23 is positioning, section 24 is pedestrian crossings, and then section 25 is positioning normal stops. So if we start with number 23, positioning with normal driving, you need to be generally 1 meter from the curb or in the center of your lane. If you're anywhere but this, okay, you're going to be struggling. You're going to be creating problems, okay? Lane discipline, look ahead and make sure that you choose the correct lane for the place that you're going to go to. So if you want to turn right at the roundabout, don't be in the left lane or the middle lane unless it states. Be in the right hand side lane and get in the right hand side lane early so everyone can see what you're trying to do. That, again, really simple way of failing your test, just being in the wrong lane at the wrong time and then panicking and moving and suddenly affecting somebody. 24 is pedestrian crossings. Are you aware of pedestrian crossings? Are you dealing with them as you're coming up to them? Are you scanning and planning? Are you looking out for potentially pedestrians who might want to cross? If you're just coming charging up and then hitting the brakes, again, you're going to have problems. So forward planning is the key, and making sure that we deal with those pedestrian crossings when we see them. Section 25, positioning on normal stops. So if you've stopped, if you've been asked to stop on the left and the examiner says, could you park on the left, please? You're going to need to find somewhere which is safe, legal and convenient, okay? If you don't find somewhere that is safe, legal and convenient, that is going to potentially go down as a fault on the driving test. So not over a driveway, not on WL lines, not on bus stops, not on bends, not on junctions, nowhere which is going to cause problems. So somewhere which is safe, legal and convenient, okay? If you're too far away from the curb when you stop, again, that's going to be an issue because you're going to be blocking the road. You want to be nice and snug, probably about 5 or 6 inches away from the curb max, if not a bit closer if you can, okay? And section 26 is awareness and planning. Again, that links in with most of this stuff. If you're not aware of what's going on in front of you, you're not going to be able to deal with stuff as it happens, okay? So if you're just driving into situations, I had a girl recently who's got a test soon, she's just driving into situations and then braking suddenly, driving into situations and braking suddenly. It's not very good awareness and planning. Simple as that. Section 27 is ancillary controls. So that's like your headlights, your window wipers, your window switches, your blowers, and so on and so forth. So if you're not familiar with this, please go and have a look at your instructor's car or your car and get familiar with those controls, because guess what? That examiner will not help you on the driving test. They will just allow the windows to steam up and, okay, you're not going to be able to see out, and that's going to be a fault, okay? You've got some spare ones here, 28, 29 and 30, 31, 32. You've got some spares, and then you've got the final one, which is 33, which is a wheelchair. Again, nothing to do with a learner test. If the examiner has to get involved physically or verbally, there is a box for them to tick. It says ETA, V or P, and they put verbally is the V and P is physically. So if they have to grab the wheel or if they have to tell you what to do, they'll tick that box. I know that was quite a whistle-stop tour. I know you guys don't really want to sit and watch for about an hour or so of me explaining stuff, but this form, as I said, the DL25 is usually green and it's on the internet and you can go and check it out. Hope that helped. Don't forget to comment and like and subscribe, and we'll see you on the next one.